Hey everyone, welcome back to the RetroBreak Podcast, and welcome to the first episode of 2025. This is episode 56, and in today's episode I'm going to be talking all about some fun retro gaming related things that are coming out this year from companies and independent people as well as some other exciting things for the year, including some really cool projects that I've got planned and some fun content that I've been working on. So let's get started with some of the cool retro stuff coming out in 2025, and if there's anything I missed or if there's anything extra that you know about, let me know in my Discord server. There's a link in the description to the podcast, so you can come over there and tell us about some of the other cool stuff coming out this year. So let's get started with the first thing on my list here, which is something that was apparently coming out in January, but I don't know whether that's still true or not. And that is the Analogue 3D, which is Analogue's answer to the Nintendo 64, which is also going to be their first 4K compatible console. And apparently that 4K compatibility will allow it to do some really nice CRT screen effects. So I'm really curious to see what that actually ends up being like, because I know that N64 emulation is notoriously tricky, so have they pulled it off properly using full FPGA technology? Hopefully we'll find out very soon. On the website here, they do actually say that it has 100% compatibility for the first time ever. I don't know whether I actually believe that just yet, but like I said, time will tell. And they're also trying to recreate the signature look of a Sony CRT using, I guess, high quality 4K overlays on the screen. So it'll be really cool to try that out. And they're also coming out with a new 8-bit DOE N64 style controller, which isn't like the N64 style in the fact that it's got the 3 sticks. It looks more like a regular Xbox or Switch Pro controller, just without the second analog stick. And it actually looks really nice, the way they've done the C buttons and the A and B button on the front, and the N64 style hexagonal analog stick on the left. I think it will actually be really comfy as well. And it's a proper wireless controller. I assume it has 2.4G wireless instead of Bluetooth, because that is always good. And it also looks like they're using the new Analogue OS as well, so the same as the Analogue Pocket, which is a really nice operating system. So very much looking forward to testing all that out when it comes out, and I will definitely make a full video on it when the time comes. I'm hoping it's still coming out this month, although I haven't heard anything. I haven't had any emails or anything. And it just says available in Q1 2025 on the website now, so maybe it's been delayed very slightly, but it's still something I'm very much looking forward to. And also, to go along with the Analogue N64, I've actually ordered myself the N64 EverDrive, which is something that I've actually wanted for a long time. And if that does turn up before the Analogue 64 arrives, I might do a separate video on that, just to test out its features and to test out actually playing my game library on my Japanese N64 as well, and see whether the games actually play on that using the EverDrive, because that would be fantastic. Then I won't need to have both of them plugged in at once. And I also want to test out a bunch of ROM hacks and fan translations and all the good stuff that EverDrives allow you to do as well. So very much looking forward to getting the N64 one of them and trying it out, and I will definitely make a video when that one arrives as well, hopefully in the next few days actually, because I had the shipping notification last week at this point. The second thing here on my list is a PlayStation 1 version of the Mister. Well, it's designed like an original PS1, like the smaller version, and it's being designed by Taki Udon, who's a very popular YouTube channel in the gaming emulation space. And it will actually start at just $149, which is actually a lot cheaper than getting a pre-built Mister kit. And not only that, it also has support for PlayStation 1 memory cards and controllers as well. And you can also get an optional add-on to allow it to use CDs as well, so you can actually play your official PlayStation 1 games on the console too. When I first saw this, I wasn't super excited about the idea because it doesn't actually have a disk drive built in, and I've already got a Mister. But from doing some reading online on Time Extension and actually writing on there as well in the comments and having myself corrected by a few people, I can actually see why this is a very good value proposition for a lot of people. It uses a much cheaper FPGA core, I believe, so it allows it to reduce the price, but I love the form factor of it, and having all the ports at the back just means that it looks really sleek, and I might end up picking one up for myself just because of how nice it looks. And to get the CD thing on there as well would just be really great for playing PlayStation 1 games. And from reading a bit more here on Reddit, it actually looks like you can just use any USB CD drive. So I've actually got one right next to me now. So if I do get it, I'll try it out with that just to see whether we actually need to use the official CD add-on or whether you can just use any USB add-on. So I might end up getting that. I don't know when it's announced. I don't know when it's out yet. I don't know if it's up for pre-order. I don't think it is just yet. But let me know whether you'd be interested in seeing me cover that, because it does look quite interesting. Now, the next thing I've got here is actually something that I think came out last year, but as far as I can tell, it's always been out of stock, and I don't know when it's going to come back in. But basically, it's a brand new Dreamcast VMU, basically, called VM2, and it has a bunch of really great features. It's USB-C, rechargeable, it's got a built-in battery, so you won't have any of the issues of using the watch batteries like on the regular Dreamcast. It has a monochrome backlit LCD, which is great for being able to see in the dark, because obviously the original one didn't have any sort of backlight, which is fantastic. It uses micro SD cards so that you can have basically unlimited save storage rather than being limited to just the few blocks that a traditional Dreamcast memory card has. It also has 128 kilobytes of built-in storage, that's 200 blocks. It supports all of the minigame compatibility that the original Dreamcast had, which is fantastic because a lot of people never really got the chance to try out the Dreamcast VMU minigames just because of how terrible the battery life is. So that's fantastic. It also has some really interesting features as well, where you can actually stream the VMU screen to a PC for streaming or capturing footage or just seeing the games on the big screen as well, which sounds really interesting. But unfortunately, from what I can see online, it seems like it's almost impossible to get your hands on one. So if I ever do, of course I will make a video, but I don't know whether that's actually going to be a possibility or not. But it is something I've actually wanted for a long time because I am running out of space on my many different VMUs, and it would be great to have them all in one place and just know whenever I boot the Dreamcast up that that's the only thing I need to have plugged in. So I will keep an eye out on the website and definitely try and get one at some point. The next thing on my list here is an upscaler, and a cheaper version of the best upscaler available. It's called the RetroTink 4K CE, and it is a much cheaper but still very expensive version of the RetroTink 4K. So the original version actually retails for $750, but it includes just the best of the best picture quality and resolution and scaling options, and most importantly for a lot of people it includes all of the best deinterlacing options too. Well, there's a new version coming out that's a lot cheaper, and it has most of the same features, just minus some of the more advanced things, and I think this would be a really great choice for people who are trying to get into retro gaming and they have a bit of a budget to spare on something for upscaling. This is probably the best option, unless you want to pay like nearly £1,000 here in the UK for the other alternative. This one doesn't feature all of the deinterlacing options as the actual full RetroTink 4K. This one only features the linear motion adaptive deinterlacing, but without any of the advanced controls. So there's no offset control, there's no edge adaptive interpolation. But I really do think that if we see the difference, it probably wouldn't make that much of a difference. So it's great that this exists, and it's definitely the best alternative, I think, personally. And it has loads of great input and output options, and you can get adapters to do VGA, to do SCART, to do BNC, basically all of the different old connection styles that you could hope for you'll be able to use directly with this system. So you don't need anything like an OSSC to pump into it like I do with the Morph 4K that I've got. So I really do think that this will be fantastic when it's released. And let's have a look here at what it can actually do right out of the box. So it has a SCART port for RGB and YPB, PR and S-Video and composite, so that's fantastic. It has RCA jacks on the back, so that's for your standard analog signal. It also has a HD15 VGA port, which will be fantastic for using retro computers and upscaling them onto modern displays. It also has some ports on the front. It has a composite port and an S-Video connection on the front as well, so that is just fantastic, just like the old style TVs. If you have the red, yellow and white cables, you can plug them directly into the front of it. And if you've got S-Video as well, which we never really got in the UK, so that's more of a America-centric thing, I believe, because RGB SCART kind of replaced the need for having S-video, I think, anyway. And it also has digital video input for sources up to 1080p if you want to upscale them to 4K as well using HDMI. And you can do obviously all sorts of cropping and CRT simulation, and it can also run in HDR as well if you want that kind of CRT phosphor glow as well. So that's really cool. And I'll put a link to the website if you want to check out all of the differences between this and the full version as well. And the final thing that I wanted to bring up in terms of exciting retro tech coming this year is something called the Scalable video switch, and this is very exciting. And when I say very exciting, this is probably the best thing that's happened in retro gaming in a long time. So this is basically a build-it-yourself kit, like a flexible, customizable SCART switcher plus any other inputs and outputs that you could possibly want. So this is designed for retro gaming, and the insane thing is you can actually attach these modules together and you can have up to 32 different input modules and 6 output modules in one like combination grid, which is just insane. So I'm already trying to think about all of the different systems I have and all of the different possibilities of routing these things together. And the most exciting thing for me, this is actually coming out on the 25th of January, so in 6 days time as of recording this, and that is actually on payday as well. So I'm going to go all out and buy everything that I could possibly need to ever go into and out of this. I'm thinking like 5 RGB SCART blocks, 3 composite ones for the Wii, the PS2 and the PSP, and then a bunch of AV connections as well. And then for outputs, I'll have a SCART output to go to the CRT and maybe 2 HDMI outputs if they do them, one to go into the capture card and one to go into the OSSC as well to feed into the screen at the back of the room too. So I am very, very excited for this. And luckily, if you're actually listening to this the day the podcast came out, then you'll actually be able to get one on the 25th. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to try and get your hands on one as well. And you might be able to see why I'm so excited, and you can check out all of the different options. So basically what you need to do, you need to at least buy the module controller, which is basically what you'd slot everything else into. And that is £35 on its own, and then you buy the different input modules, and they range from about £25 to £30 each, and then you can buy the range of different output modules as well, and they're a bit cheaper actually. They're about £20 each, so that is just so cool. So really, really looking forward to getting that, and it's going to make the setup so good. So I'm really glad that someone's making that, because it's something that I've wanted forever. And I was so close to biting the bullet and buying a Hydra SCART block, which is obviously just SCART, which had 2 SCART outputs, but this basically has whatever you want it to be. So very excited for that. And now all that's the retro tech out of the way, let me tell you a bit about some of the projects that I've been working on. And if you remember me talking about this in last year's episodes, I've been trying to get my Super Donuts game back up and running for the PC, and I'm very happy to say that it is almost complete. I've only got one more world left to fix and then some more testing to do, and then it will finally be released, and I can't wait to get it out there. And I've got some great ideas for another game that I'm going to be working on as well. And hopefully I can find time to try and turn that into a video series. And it's going to be a very long-term plan, so don't expect anything in the near term, and I don't want to burn myself out. So I'm going to be very careful as I'm making this, and I'm going to try and come up with a really good strategy for the kind of things that I need to focus on in order to actually make this work without getting too stressed about not knowing what to do or anything. But the good news is I've been learning a lot from remaking Super Donuts, even though it's still using the old game engine. And I've been writing down the kind of things that I've been doing to improve this release that I can then take forward into Godot with the new game engine and try and figure out how to improve things on that side of the fence as well. And I think it'll make a great video series to do a kind of devlog. It's very different to anything else I've done before, but people really loved my game dev video that I made last year, so I would love to try and talk more about that as well, which is kind of my second passion / hobby outside of retro gaming. So really excited to get back into that this year. And in terms of other video projects that I'm working on, I've been trying to get through my backlog. So I'm going to do a new series called Backlog Break, where I tackle some games that I've got in my collection that I've never actually got around to playing. So it's been really great so far. I've actually been streaming the games as I'm going, and I'm right at the end of Ratchet & Clank #1 for the PlayStation 2, and I've been really enjoying my time with that. And I've actually made some friends while I'm streaming that, and they've come over to my Discord server, and they've watched every episode so far, and they are big fans of Ratchet & Clank. Clank. So I hope that when these videos comes out, I'll actually get fans of the games that I've been playing coming and checking out my experience for the first time with no nostalgia attached. And it'll be really interesting to see how I find these games like 20, 30 years after they were originally released. And a lot of these games are going to be more popular games that people have really fond memories of as well. So it's really interesting from that point of view to see whether playing the game today with no prior experience can kind of live up to someone's nostalgia back in the day. And I'll try and do an objective kind of look over the game and how it holds up in the modern day as well. So it'll be really interesting from that point of view too. So really looking forward to kicking those videos off properly in the near future. I think I've got maybe 2 streams left of Ratchet & Clank, and then I'll be able to do my analysis video. And I'm still trying to find out the best way to actually record and stream at the same time. So hopefully in the future I can kind of streamline that process and make things a little bit easier on myself, especially when it comes to making the video after the fact. Because a lot of the footage I can't really use because you can hear me talking over it from the stream. So it will have to be silent and then use background music from the game. But I'm going to try and find a way of actually recording and streaming completely separately so I have the video files to use as well. So that is something that I'm hoping to do in the long term. And one other thing that I've been thinking about recently, which is something that I didn't actually bring up in my Welcome to 2025 video that I did on my main channel, and that is the fact that I want to make a video about affordable games that people can use to collect for their collections. So I'm coming up with a list at the minute of, I think, 10 games to begin with for the original Game Boy, which are all under £10 each if you want to just get the cart. And I think that will actually be really beneficial for a lot of people, because I had a comment a few days ago on one of my top games videos saying that someone was a little bit annoyed about the price of all the games, and they were annoyed that I only show off games that are kind of outside the price range of the majority of people who don't take retro gaming as seriously as I do. So I think it'll be really good to do a cheaper version of those videos, still with good games, but maybe not the best of the best, but at least ones that you can actually get, or if you're going to a convention or something, you can try and find without having to spend like a few £100 to just get one game. You can spend a few £100 and get the entire set of games that I talk about, which will be a lot better. And yeah, I'm going to try and keep them to under £10 or $10 in the videos, which I think will be really good. So I hope that video does quite well. Maybe I'm going to do that for my next video if I actually already own the games that I'm looking at. And I'm kind of using a mix of eBay, CEX and price charting to kind of see which games are under that price threshold that I can talk about. So hopefully that's something you're all looking forward to. Anyway, that has been the first podcast episode of 2025. I will try and make these more regularly in the future because I do keep forgetting about it recently. So hope you all enjoyed listening, and hopefully I'll be back in about 2 weeks' time to do another episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.